Welcome back to EQ in Action. I'm your host, Ty Coleman. In episode 3, we're turning the mirror around and talking about self awareness, the cornerstone of emotional intelligence, and one of the most underrated tools in coaching. We'll explore how knowing your own emotions, triggers, and values can help you lead with a clarity, consistency, and confidence. Today's episode, we're going to talk about self awareness. What is self awareness? Self awareness in coaching is the ability to recognize your thoughts, emotions, habits, biases, understand how those internal factors impact your decisions, your communication, and your athlete relationships. Adjust your behavior intentionally, not emotionally. In simple terms, self aware coaches don't just coach what they see, they coach knowing how they see. A self aware coach always asks, why did that moment frustrate me? Was my response about the athlete or about me? Is this how I want to show up for my team? Self awareness doesn't mean being soft or second guessing yourself. It means being purposeful, consistent, and aligned with your values. Self awareness has two sides, and strong coaches develop both. Internal self awareness. This is about what's happening inside of you. It includes your emotions, dealing with your stress, your own pride, your frustrations, your beliefs. Your effort equals respect. Mistakes mean lack of focus. What you consider disrespect, what you consider laziness, poor body language, and also coaching identity. A coach notices when practice feels disorganized. When practice feels disorganized, I get short tempered and start yelling instead of teaching. That's one example of an internal self awareness factor. That awareness creates choice instead of reaction. External self awareness. This is about how others experience you. This includes how athletes interpret your tone, how parents perceive your communication, how assistant coaches read your body language, whether your intent matches your impact. Let me say that again. Whether your intent matches your impact. Example, a coach intends to challenge, but athletes experience it as embarrassment, favoritism, or constant criticism. Self-aware coaches ask, how is my coaching being received? Not just how it is intended, how is it being received? Self-awareness is about understanding your emotional patterns, your leadership style, and how others perceive you. It's not always comfortable, but it is always powerful. Today, we are honored to welcome a leader who truly represents what is possible through hard work, resilience, and believing in yourself. Our guest speaker has succeeded at every level of the game. She competed collegiately at Hardin-Simmons University as part of nationally successful teams that advanced to Sweet 16 and the Elite Eight, earning recognition as both a college All-American and an academic All-American, proving that excellence on the court and in the classroom go hand in hand. She went on to play professional basketball overseas, gaining a global perspective on the game before transitioning into coaching. Her journey led her to coach semi-professional basketball in Europe and later to Boston University, where the program made NCAA tournament in all 7 seasons she was on staff. A remarkable example of sustained success, culture, and leadership. She's also been a high school coach before transitioning to her current role. Today, she brings that experience and passion to her role as a middle school girls coordinator, where she is shaping the next generation of young athletes, building confidence, character, and belief in who they are and who they can become. She lives by a simple but powerful motto that guides everything she does. Whatever the challenge, whatever the test, whatever you are striving for, give it your best. That message defines her journey and the impact she has on every young person she leads. Please help me give a warm, enthusiastic welcome to Coach Kathryn Otwell. Today's episode is titled Know yourself, coach better, self awareness. I am honored to have on today Coach Kathryn Otwell. Welcome, Coach.
Thank you.
All right, so whatever the challenge, whatever the test, whatever you're striving for, give it your best. As you go ahead and tell us a little bit about you and explain why at an early age this quote became your life's motto.
Well, first off, thank you for having me on. This is a neat experience. A little bit about me. Basketball has been my life. Coaching has been my life for a long time. I always knew I wanted to do it. Played basketball in college, played basketball overseas for a little while. I had the opportunity to coach at the Division 1 level, at the Division 3 level, at the high school level, and now at the middle school level. So I guess really that quote at a young, I was probably, gosh, I was a gymnast when I was young. That's what my parents started me in, not in basketball. And we saw it at a meet in the hallway, and it just stuck with me because I think in my life, on a daily basis, I always want to give everything I can to everyone. So there's going to be challenges, there's going to be red lights. And I think for some reason that quote just stuck with me, and it makes me push every day a little bit harder.
Okay, that's great. With that being said, Coach, I'm sure with that quote, it has been a lot of self reflection on your part. So, how has self awareness shaped your coaching?
Well, let me say this first. Let me be transparent. I don't think I am 100% self-aware. If you had me hooked up to one of those lie detection machines and you said, "Are you 100% self-aware?" and I said, "Yes," I think that thing would go crazy. But being self-aware and always, working harder at becoming even more self-aware, I think has helped me reach a little bit more effectiveness in my potential as a coach. And I think honestly, it should be everyone's goal to be completely self aware. And with that being said, it's always going to be a work in progress. But I believe if you're self aware, then you're going to be able to reach the kids in your program as well as the adults because you're always going to reflect and you're always going to ask questions when you are self aware. So I think it's important to know your strengths but to also know those things that are going to cloud your awareness, those things in the shadows that you need to work on. In our profession, honestly, I think the ego and the fear prevents us from being completely self-aware and in other professions as well. But I think as coaches, it's something that is so, so, so very important and something we need to continue working on.
That's great. So, what tools would you say help you stay reflective?
That's a really good question. I think probably for me is just getting out and engaging in the world, in our trade, learning new things, both physically and mentally. I think once I engage in outside knowledge, whether it's other coaches, sports outside of my comfort zone, I think that also helps me reflect and become more self aware because then I start to ask myself questions. I think truly as I go through this profession and get a little more, I don't want to use the word older, but I may have
More
to use the
experience.
word older. Yeah, we're going to use experience. We're going to use experience. I've become a little, I think, less impressed and more involved in things. So the things that I used to hold, that I used to revere, like best district record, having the fastest kid on the track, just the things that I think we need to level out a little bit. I think I'm recognizing those more, which allows me to then reflect and to get better at coaching the kid before the athlete, which I think is important. I think when I reflect, you're able to teach the person, and when you teach the person, the athlete will follow. Same as leadership. If you teach the adult, that leadership's going to follow. So I think probably reflecting and just beginning to celebrate the small wins with kids and help them feel more celebrated and less just tolerated. And I also think the other thing is just asking questions of people in the trade.
Okay, that's great. So, I know one of my issues was I see athletes and I see myself in them. And When you do that, you get emotionally attached. And so, how do you handle emotional triggers, coach?
Whew. I mentioned that's a work in progress too. I think going back to what I said previously about not holding things on such a high level that don't need to be, and understanding the kid a little more. So the way I am getting better at handling emotional triggers again is just allowing the world to be a little more level, practicing pushing pause, which we have to tell our kids that on a daily basis. I mean, at the middle school level where I am now, there's something happening every hour, and we're telling kids you have to press pause. You have to, it can't be a knee jerk reaction. So I think I have worked on that as I'm teaching kids that. I think a lot of times when we're dealing with our triggers and our emotional attachment to kids and how good we want them to be, like you said, you see yourself there. What I've really tried to do is beginning to recognize my reaction to those certain triggers. A lot of times your reaction occurs during the stage, during the event. And I think if we continue to work on self awareness, you can get to a point where you know this is how you've reacted before. This is how the kid's about to react. But you have to train your brain a little bit. And that's what I've worked on a lot is how to train my reactions differently. So just recognizing triggers before they happen. We talk to our kids a lot about this equation, the E plus the R equals the O, right? And so all that means is the event plus that response equals the outcome. So any response I have is going to change that outcome. If I react incorrectly to a kid, if I react bad to a kid, that outcome is going to be different, the same as we tell our kids. So I have to press pause. I have to think about how that reaction is going to affect either the adult I'm talking to or the kid when I'm coaching. But if your awareness precedes that behavior, we have a choice and we can make a better decision. So I would answer that with just probably pressing pause and thinking about my response first.
A lot of us need to do that. Now, I'm one of them.
I know. I
So,
definitely, you know that.
yes, ma'am. So, how do you model self awareness for your athletes and for your coaches?
Whew, I think just keep moving forward, right? So I don't think I'm a judgmental person. I think I always keep moving forward and I'm very non-judgmental in situations. Let's take our athletes, for example. Very non-judgmental in situations that our athletes can put themselves in, can push us up against the wall. So I think we have to do a better job of understanding the athletes that we're coaching now and that they have different stressors than we did growing up. And we can't coach the same way as we did 10, 15 years ago.
Correct.
So another thing that I've really worked on and tried to do is just taking ownership rather than blaming any situation or any other person that we're involved in, whether it's a student athlete or an adult in our program, coaches in our program. And by doing that, I can accept a lot more feedback from coaches and have a lot more conversations from kids because I don't always need to be right. But if you want to model that awareness for the adults and the kids in your program, you have to really understand and not be oblivious to our impact or my impact on them and what that looks like to them. And just recognizing our roles and conflicts, good or bad, I think is probably pretty important.
Well, so what's one situation in coaching that consistently pushes your buttons? Consistently.
Have I want to say effort, which is so cliche. So let's think of another one. I would say kids' reactions push my buttons. So a teammate does something in a game. I'm going to use basketball just as a teammate makes a bad decision in a game, and our age kids always just react. They don't do that. They don't press pause, and I can see it happening. So that's something that really pushes my buttons when we try to build a culture of consistent positivity and always following up with teammates. And then we react badly to a teammate. That is something that just sets me over the edge. And the other one is just lack of communication from kids at our age. So something's going on at home, something's going on in their family, something's going on with friends. When a athlete does not communicate with me, so I don't know where they're coming from, I'm going to react a lot differently than I would if I knew where they were coming from. So I would say those two things just really, those emotional triggers that I need to work on, that those are two things that did just send me over the edge.
Yeah, that's the one thing that I try to get across to kids and coaches, that empathy piece right there. We want to have empathy, but if we don't know what we need to have empathy for, a situation or whatever it is, it's tough. So with that being
Absolutely.
said, how do athletes experience you when you are stressed?
Ooh, I like that question. Well, my kids pick up on it immediately when I walk in the gym. That's I unfortunately I must wear my heart on my sleeve when I walk in that gym. So I think they experience me as I'm still going to care about them because they do call me out on it. So they're not scared enough to not still, coach, what's going on today? Or what happened before you got in here? Because they're going to call me out. So I think they would experience me as still caring, but during those times, they're going to experience probably a different form of energy than they normally get. But hopefully they can still trust me and still move forward with me through that.
Okay. So, question to you, coach, real quick.
Yeah.
Are you coaching from intention or from habit?
I think in the past 3 years, my answer has changed on that. I think 2 or 3 years ago, you asked me that question and I would have been coaching on habit. I think now I always talk about this. It's interesting you asked that because in outside conversation, I'm always talking about being intentional and I'm telling our kids to be intentional. So now I would say that I'm doing it with intention rather than out of habit because, and it's great we're talking about this right now, because I've been able to reflect and because I've been able to get out of my own way in a sense and like I said, level out the playing field, level out the world, and understand that athletes, like I said earlier, have so many other things going on. So I have to be very intentional about understanding where that athlete's coming from. We have to look deeper than skill. I think in our sports, we talk a lot about situational awareness, but I don't talk a lot about that emotional awareness and understanding a kid. So I would hope my answer now is out of intention and being very intentional about what I do.
I believe it is, coach. That's what I see.
Okay,
So,
good. Let me know if I still need to work on that on a daily basis.
I got you. So, what would you say when we talk about self awareness, learning ourselves so we can coach better in a sense? What are some common blind spots for coaches?
I like this question. Obviously, it depends on your staff and your coaches, things that you have to work through with different coaches. But I think as a whole, understanding, well, let's just say this, that belief is a verb, right? So if I don't believe as a coach, you can have a mission statement, you put it out there. You can have a motto, you put it out there. You can say, this is the culture we're teaching, this is the culture we're striving for. But if we as coaches don't believe that, I think the adults in our program and the kids in our program can see straight through that. Kids are smart, kids are perceptive, and I think if you're just talking the talk but not walking the walk of that culture and that mission statement that you're putting out there, I think that's probably a pretty common blind spot. I think another thing is understanding, especially for young coaches, maybe, that resistance is okay. Resistance is a good thing. And I think as coaches, we just want to kind of float through with green lights. And I think that we think we hit all green. We're on Broad Street. We're praying for green lights all the way down. I think we believe that if we get green lights all the time, we're successful and that our kids are successful. But I think recognizing that yellow lights and red lights are good and teaching through that resistance is a good thing. But I don't think we see that sometimes, especially young coaches. So I think understanding that a little resistance and a little pushback from any part of your program is good so you can reflect. But I think that's probably a pretty common blind spot.
That's great. So, last one, Coach. And I'm going to sort of put
Okay.
you on the spot because I'm going to let you know now that whatever come out your mouth,
Uh-oh.
someone's going to see this. And your student athletes, they're going to comment on this, okay?
Okay. Okay. I can't wait.
Okay. So, I run into a former student athlete of Coach Kathryn Otwell, whether that was a professional athlete, a University of Boston athlete, a high school basketball athlete, or a middle school girl athlete. What is that student athlete going to say to me about what you believe they learned or what you wanted them to take from the experience of Coach Kathryn Otwell?
Ooh, I'm gonna hear about this. I think first, I think it depends on which walk of life I was in. I I think that they would probably say a lot of really hard workouts, that she pushed me really hard. But through that, I think that they probably learned how to become successful young women through those trials and tribulations and through the resistance and through the really hard workouts that I put them through, that they learned what it means to be a good person in a successful young woman throughout their careers, both playing and after. A great mom, a great aunt, a great sister. But they're going to talk about how hard those workouts were.
That's going to be spoken, huh?
It is, and the word fence line is going to come in there because that's what I hear about all the time.
All right. And Coach, just being around it, I know I said that was the last one, but I just feel like people have to hear this. I witness that you do a great job of making sure that kids understand analogies like the fence line, above the line is what you teach now. Can you just give us just a little bit on why you teach that way and why you use these analogies to reach young women?
Yeah, I think it's important for kids and the coaches in your program, the leaders in your program, the administration that you're working with, whatever the case may be. I think it's important for you to be able to refer back to something. And I think, for example, the ATL that we use, which means above the line, I think it allows you to give principles that help you teach your culture. And I think in this day and age, culture is used a lot. We say the word. I don't know that everybody truly knows what it means or how to get it out of kids because of, again, what kids are going through and how many directions they're pulled. And our kids are playing outside sports and they're coached by a lot of different people. But I think by using ACL, for example, by using the workouts that we push them until they don't think they can be pushed anymore. And then we love on them by doing that. It opens you up to have points to teach every single day. Because as I say all the time, I'm going to make mistakes. We talk to our kids about it all the time. I'm going to make mistakes every single day. And that allows us, when a kid makes a mistake, to go back and say, hey, look at this principle that we've talked about. What does this mean to you? What does it mean to your future? What's it going to look like as a seventh grader, as an eighth grader, as a senior, as a college student athlete? So I use those things to really get a basis for something to lean on for kids. Um, in any situation, just to allow us to have principles and something to go back to.
All right, Coach, that was great. I really appreciate it. I appreciate you
Yeah.
coming on, sacrificing your time to come on to the show, and I really appreciate
Yes,
it.
it was
I'm
fun.
sure that everyone's going to gain a lot of knowledge out of this. It's been a great experience for me, and I know I'm going to watch it a few times. So thank you so much, Coach.
I told you I was working on it still. I'm gonna watch it too. That's a reflection.
All right.
Thanks for having me, Coach.
Yes, ma'am. Every episode, we dig into our EQ toolbox. Our EQ toolbox for today, for this episode, the post practice reflection, tool of the week. After each practice or game, take 5 minutes to journal or voice record answers to these simple questions. What went well? What didn't go as planned? How did I show up emotionally? What can I adjust next time? Ask yourself and answer these simple questions after each practice as a practice reflection, and I guarantee you, your self awareness will grow and it will enhance relationships with your athletes and your coaches. Thanks for joining me for episode 3, self awareness. Remember, the more you know yourself, the more effective and authentic you'll be as a coach. Next episode, we'll be talking about social awareness, how to read the room, understand team dynamics, and lead with emotional insight. Until then, keep coaching the whole athlete.